car inspected. In Germany, you're required to have an annual inspection, and found a couple of things wrong with the car. One of them is the brake balance. So the left and right front are in balance, meaning the one side has more braking force than the other side. So the left side is the side that's lower. The right side seems to work fine, the guy said. So, and they're imbalanced by more than 50%. I think the actual reading was 56% imbalance between the two. So I'm not sure what the spec is here in Germany. I think it might be 25%. But so what I'm going to do is kind of show you the steps of what it might be, and try to fix it. Obviously, the problem is going to be figuring out what is causing the imbalance. A couple things it could be is a little bit of air in the line, causing this brake to not clamp as hard as the right side. This caliper itself could be faulty, meaning it's sticking and it's not allowing all the force from the brake pedal application to be transferred to the rotor. So I'm going to take it apart and check the caliper pistons, make sure that they're moving freely and not stuck, and then I'm going to also bleed the brakes, make sure there's no air in the lines, and I'll show you all that. First I'll show you a little way you can test on your own the balance of the brakes. So basically I got one of the lugs screwed onto a post, and I've got a clamp inside of the car set to extend. So I've reversed the clamp and set it to extend, and I've kind of wedged it between the brake pedal and the driver's seat. And so I've created some brake pressure on the line, a constant brake pressure, so it's not moving. And so you can see how much force it takes. So I've connected a breaker bar here, and we'll see that as I apply force, you can get the brake, you can get the rotor to move inside the caliper. Obviously, then you go over on the other side and you see how much force it takes on the other side, and just by the feel of how much force it takes on your arm, you can figure out how much the imbalance is. It's just a feel thing. You could get a gauge such as like a weight measuring device to weigh game. So if you do some game hunting and you use a device to weigh the game, you could attach it to one of the lugs here and then pull on it and see how much force it takes to move that, and then you can do the same thing on this side, and you'll get a reading in pounds or kilograms, and then you just figure out the percentage difference between the two sides. So that's what I did. I connected the same thing on the other side, and you can definitely tell it's harder for me to turn the right rotor than it is the left rotor. So let's go ahead and get to dismantling it. First of all, I'm going to show you the little setup I have inside the vehicle here. So it's just basically a clamp that I have set to extend, and it's wedged against the brake pedal and the driver's seat, and it's just kind of holding the constant pressure in there. But now I'll just take the brakes apart which I'm not going to show you how to do because I showed that in a different video, and then we'll just see if there's a problem with the caliper. Okay, in order to see if either the two pistons are seized, I'm just going to use my hands and clamp and basically apply pressure to each of the calipers individually, or each of the pistons individually, and see if the fluid comes out. There should be a little bit of brake fluid obviously left inside the unit, so if I clamp this way and fluid drains out, then obviously that, you can see the fluid draining out there, obviously that piston isn't seized. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Apply some pressure to that piston, and again fluid comes out, so neither of the caliper pistons appear to be seized. The brake pads are in good condition. The shims are in place, and everything looks good. Okay, so taking off the caliper, and I took a look at all the pistons and made sure that they weren't sticking. Well, the only thing left to do is to bleed the brakes. All of my brake lines are new, except for the one that goes from the main splitter inside the engine bay over to the wheel, over to this wheel well. That one is the original, or at least original to me. I replaced this copper line here, I replaced the flexi hose here. Those were done during previous jobs, so I know that those are good. This is a fairly new caliper, and like I said, I just checked it to make sure that there's no binding or sticking with the two pistons. So the next thing left to do is to bleed the brakes. So I initially, like I said, had a difference. Let me get the paper. This is the test sheet that comes from the German test center. So you can see down here is the difference in the failure point, and over here it says the difference that it was 56% between the left and right front brake, and the tolerance is 25%. So after my initial bleed, I improved that. So here's the left 63 foot-pound, and then the right 80 foot-pound, which is a 21.25%. So I bled, just got the initial bleed of the brakes, and there was a air bubble or two that popped out. So I can only assume that was the issue. So now I'm within tolerance. So here's the formula to try to figure out what the percent difference is. So you take the larger number minus the smaller number divided by the larger number times 100 equals the percentage difference between the two sides. So then I continued to bleed the brakes and bled them for a few more times. Actually, I probably put a brand new fluid through this whole line between the master cylinder and this left front brake. So I probably got brand new fluid throughout that whole system. And now the new results is, this is what I'm getting for my differences. So I tested it at two different brake pedal pressures, and I got a left 52, a right 61 for a difference of 14.75, and then I increased the pedal pressure, and I got 72 and 87 for a difference of 17.24. So all of those are within specs. I should be able to bring it back to the test center and pass. So here's hoping. Here's how I tested it. I took just a standard torque wrench. I have my lug nut on there, and make sure you test both sides the same. And so I just applied pressure to the brake pedal with that the clamp, the reversed clamp that I showed you. So basically it's a spreader, and then I'm measuring the torque that I have to put on the rotor to get it to spin inside the caliper. So make sure you do both sides the same. So do it in line with the axle. Don't turn it from down here and then do the other one from up here, because that's the torque reading is gonna change. So just do them both, and then do them until you just start to get turning as soon as you hear the click of the torque wrench, and that's the spec. And then you just read it off, you write down your reading, do the same thing for the other side, and then you can figure out the percentage difference. And then again, inside the vehicle, easy way to hold pressure is just with the clamp here. So I have one side of the clamp pressed against the driver's seat, and the other side of the clamp down there on the pedal, and I can just squeeze on the clamp and it increases pressure, or I can release the pressure and decrease it. And then I can test multiple brake pedal pressures to make sure that the system is balanced through a range of pedal force. That's it. Hoping I'll pass now. I should pass. Everything appears to be good, and that's how you test and fix a brake imbalance problem on the front brakes of an MGC.